You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Info Media.
Since the most hyped and the most talked topic for 2023 for sure, I'm sure nobody has any doubt that generative AI is the most talked subject. So now that we have seen it for 1 year almost, it would be good to reckon a few things of where we stand and to understand how it will shape up in 2024. Now, let me give you a context of where I come in. I've been a practitioner of technology and digital for a very long time, and I've done it myself, so I know how you implement modern technology using digital and other means within an enterprise. Yeah. And also I've worked with a lot of startup ecosystems to see how they use that within their product ecosystem as well. So while there was a hype around Gen AI, I've always taken a stand, and it is very evident from some of the posts that I've done, is that the potential is high. There's no doubt about it, but the pace at which people are thinking that it will make an impact is overhyped. And to me, I think that is the key theme that we need to delve into in our discussion today, to see if that is the message that resonates amongst all of us. Point number one. Point number two, how do you see it shape up in 2024? So these are the two themes that we'll try to delve upon. And if I may were to kind of start with my perspective, I've maintained a stand that we have seen a very, very great run post-COVID. All the businesses are growing. Stock markets is at its peak. Economies were growing. Interest rates are at its peak. Commodities are also doing good. So all around there is good growth in the past few years. Now, it has led to a lot of inflationary pressure across the world, because of which the interest rates have peaked out. I think I was reading the statistics that the 20-year and the 30-year treasury bonds in the US are at the same levels as 2002, right? Which means that we have kind of gone to a very, very dire situation in terms of purchasing power of people across, particularly in the Western region. UK is still in 9% inflation. US is somewhere around 6%, which means something has to happen to correct this. It cannot continue from an economy perspective. And in that context, I believe, and looking at a little crystal ball here, that 2024 is a year where there needs to be some pause of all sorts across all sectors to reconcile of what we have learned over the past 5 years. We have come out of COVID. We've had fantastic technology run. All the technology companies have reaped a lot of benefits, and we have two people from solution side, and I'm pretty sure every technology salesperson has pocketed more than enough bonuses in the past few years. But I think there's a place of 2024 where it has to pause a little bit to understand how do we take it forward, and what is it. So if I may ask Aditya to begin with, because he brings in the perspective of an enterprise, and then we come to the people who support us in those journeys of enterprise digital transformation. So Aditya, if you may want to help us understand, how do you see 2024 panning in, particularly keeping in context the hype around Gen AI and where it will land. If you can give a macro and the micro picture to begin with.
Yeah, thanks, Piyush. Hi, morning, everyone. So I'm from the marine industry. Not the easiest, but quite an exciting industry to work with. Every solution breaks at the doorstep of offshore units. Now, for us, I personally feel the hype is good in a way. Hype always carries a bit of momentum, active involvement, a bit of internal excitement about any new technology or new solution that comes on board. But as hype it also has a negative impact on the fact that people's expectations rapidly move ahead without the practicality or the rationality of how you implement it. So I've got everybody in the office asking me, when can we get ChatGPT in the office? I'm like, you can get it on your mobile now. You don't have to wait for me. But I think it's the transition of GPT or the AI within the enterprise world. Obviously, it starts from like any organization to first assess whether the organization has that digital maturity before it can even jump into something like AI or robotics, and that's an area which is always looked at. Now, our company is obviously part of the larger group, which is the oil and gas, but we obviously see and we are exploring, mostly through partners, I would say, not independently, opportunities or sort of use cases where bits of AI could come on board, especially around plant maintenance systems. That is a crucial area where, being a marine organization, a high level of documentation has to be maintained. And that's an area that we are currently looking at, whether AI could, because AI is foundationally at this point in time as a content generating tool, whether it's images or text, can it read our, millions of pages of manuals and regulations and provide the necessary answers in a short span of time during incidents or during any kind of maintenance cycle? Can it further develop into a predictive model of maintenance and create a digital, the digital twin technology has been there all along, but can it be interfaced with, text and content that can further make that twin more richer than just whatever you load onto the actual, design? So I think there are many areas that is being looked at. Emissions is key to our industry. It's something that has been a primary focus. That's an area that we see whether just collecting sensor data and visualizing it on an AI dashboard, could it be more exciting? Could it be more interesting for people to view that data a little bit more actively? Could it suggest, predict ideas and processes? We do also, obviously there's, as Piyush said, there's concern about how practical it is, because having your own GPT model is not something that every SME or a business enterprise can just sort of plug in. And at the same time, can it actually handle the complexity of the current infrastructure, the current application, and more importantly, the maturity of the people that are within the organization? ChatGPT has made a lot of us slightly lazy. We no longer create JDs. We just ask ChatGPT to create one for us. But there's nothing wrong in doing that. The question is that when it reaches areas of compliance, areas of governance, can people offload the responsibility to GPT to say that, the incorrect observation was provided by the AI, so blame the AI, don't crucify me. And I think those kind of questions on how much governance can be provided, how the current workforce can adapt to it and also benefit, at the same time overcome, the necessary lapses that might occur. So yeah, I would say we are in a state of flux and observation, as maybe most of the world. Currently, our focus is to leverage through our partners or to solution providers to see what they're doing, because they have a much wider space to operate across industry. So can we leverage their knowledge to see what we can bring on board? But I would say it would be an area of focus, Piyush. And for oil and gas, we are currently on a growth curve, so we're going to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, keep on pumping oil so that we can be, at least the economy can do good. So a couple of things before I move on. And I think this is what worries me a little bit, that what OpenAI has been able to do is that try to put chat GPT is equal to AI into everybody's mind. Yeah, which I think is incorrect. In my fundamental view, is that chat GPT is one of the many interfaces which AI has for doing anything and everything that we are talking about. You talked about digital twin, you talked about a lot of other things, but somehow because of this hype, people always try to relate it to chat GPT, yeah, uh, which is nothing but an interface. It's like a chatbot. Yeah, the LLMs is only a very small part of the large foundational models which the enterprises need to build on. It's not only language processing which needs to happen. It is there's a lot of video, there's a lot of context that you want to build in, and there are a lot of things which are there. So my opinion is that in 2024 people will start realizing that there is life beyond chat gpt. Yeah, and that is one of the good things which should happen. Otherwise it will be a very focused way to say that, yeah, I have a window on my side to do everything in terms of understanding language, or maybe some amount of images and video, but losing the bigger power and the picture of AI. And that is, I would see the 24 would be a first point where this should happen, when there is a little slowdown of money flowing into the. I don't know whether you agree with me or not, Aditya, on this view.
Yeah, of course. I mean, AI is not. It's come. The hype has come because of ChatGPT, but it's not something that was developed yesterday. There's in fact far more research and far more advancements on the machine learning models, and on a lot of process automation as well that's been going on for a while. But I think, like every sort of tipping point comes, or a unicorn comes on board to sort of engage the audience as across. I mean, it's something that sort of excited the whole world. And I think sometimes you need that to even justify, investing in technology. Maybe not GPT, but probably the earlier, the AI itself and the models of automation that come along with it. Now it's a trend. Every partner you call, or every solution provider that I think Jessica and Sid must be experiencing, is every client you speak to, they say, "Do you do AI?" And you're like, "That's my last slide. We are still working on it, and we have a beta version and whatever, so to speak." But I think it's something that piques the interest of everyone. It's something that everyone also fears at the same time, and concerns itself with how it's going to impact their business. But yeah, it is definitely misunderstood, but it is also instrumental in bringing AI into your homes, or making it very accessible to start with, and then it then evolves into everybody engaging with it to be able to understand how you could use it in the rest of your world. And I think for that it has served the purpose. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to enterprise, I think we all know implementing anything with an organization is far from the CEO saying, "Can it be done tomorrow?" And then no, it cannot. We've got few databases and servers and processes to go through, which may take still about 6 to 8 months or a year. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe this could reduce some of it, but I mean, I'll get other panelists to say their piece.
Sure. Perfect. So let me come to the other part, other side of the panel here. Jessica, when you speak to your clients and you look at it from the lens of you building it as part of a product and as part of your service offering, what are you hearing and how do you see the 2024 journey panning out?
Well, I do agree with Aditya a lot. A lot of the customers go in and they think ChatGPT, so they think anything AI, whether it's something that we built in 2017 or whether it's something that is just recent in 2023, it goes into chat, it goes into content, it goes into creation of imagery, of words, and then they stop. So they don't necessarily realize the impact of AI and the bigger picture, right? And then the other question that they have is they come in and they say, look, okay, ServiceNow has an AI, then Microsoft has Copilot, Google Bard, all of those things. How does it work together? Because essentially, it's not one AI, it's multiple AIs. And it will be multiple learning models, and it will be multiple environments. And as Aditya was saying, it's not just one LLM that you need to build, right? And I think when you look at where the real shift is coming into is that a lot of people are deathly afraid, and I primarily quote the CISOs now, about risk, intellectual property, responsibility, and everything that goes around it. So the standard modus operandi from a government perspective, you would expect them to shy away from it. But in the Middle East, because it is such an innovative hub, and because a lot of people want to do a lot of things, we see a lot of governments actually embracing it massively and going more into the academic world of understanding what it is before they actually adopt it to, you know, the more secure environments. So I think that balance of US wanting to look at it, and yes, it is something that we need to be afraid of, but carefully treading. Europe, they're shying away from it massively, and they're going into sovereign, and they're going into, no, we should not do this, versus the Middle East embracing it fully, is something that quite struck me. Because they're now figuring out that it's not just, you know, the foundation models of the domain specific, the general, and the fine-tuned models, but it's that content type creation, text, code, data, images, the actions that go around it. So the generation, the organization, the transformation, discovery of everything around it, and then mapping that to potential business activities. And what we see is that the Middle East is probably the most mature in understanding those business activities. It could be going into a chatbot for consumerized environments, you know, the enterprise communication, collaboration, content management, even software delivery. We're looking now at customers using AI. But one of the things that I primarily am afraid of is most of these customers are looking at AI. First of all, their perception is it's all Gen AI, which it's not. There's natural language understanding, there's machine learning, there's all sorts of things, which to Aditya's point is far more mature than where we are with ChatGPT or Gen AI. But they try to push everything into that same model, and that's where it goes wrong. So one of the first things I always ask them is, do you have a, I don't know, chief AI officer? Do you have anybody that has that AI responsibility that matches to your data set? Because essentially, and this is, you know, some things that customers don't like to hear, but if your data is not correct, then shit in, shit out. Because the way that an AI will figure out things is based upon the real life data that it finds, and then the correlation of that data, and then the percentage of accuracy reflecting into the result. Now, if your percentage of accuracy is not fully on, and your data is not fully on correct, you might actually get the wrong answer. And the more and more you go into secure environments, the more and more you go into, you know, bespoke LLMs and sandboxed AI, the more likely you are to just rely on your data and not, you know, the generic data. But then also the generic data, if you open up Pandora's box, how do you know when it's true? How do you know that that result that you're getting is 100% correct? You don't. So this is where a lot of people forget to look at that aspect of Gen AI and everything that comes with it in terms of validation, classification, verification of essentially that outcome. And this is where we help a lot of our partners and customers, so the Deloitte, the Accentures, the McKinseys of today, and then obviously also our customers jointly with a Microsoft, with a Google, with everybody else to figure out how do we now verify whether that result is correct. So they use AI more in a suggest to us what it could be kind of way, but then the human beings will still verify and will still correct and will still adjust to then later on, as time goes by and the accuracy goes up to 99.99999%, then we will leave the AI to do things on its own. But one of the things that I see a lot of customers doing wrong is they want to put the whole process in there. And that's where I always say, no, put pieces of the process in there. So there's nothing wrong with natural language understanding, machine learning. There's nothing wrong with all of those. Those things have been proven. So if you want to do a full process, which is a Gen AI generated process that launches into machine learning, that launches into anything else, right? The things that you know for sure that worked before, you don't have to re-verify. But you need to train your Gen AI, or you need to train your standard AI, you know, ecosystem into how to use the other tools. And I think that's where a lot of people don't have the maturity yet, but we try to push them in that direction because it is important. It's not just ServiceNow's AI or Microsoft's AI or anybody else's AI. It's the ecosystem of AIs. And that's not how people are looking at it, because they're still comparing one versus the other, but they're not the same. So you're on mute, Piyush.
Sorry, yeah, I'm on
No
mute.
worries.
So, no, I think you made a very valid point, and I picked up two things, right? And I have very strong opinion about one of them for sure, about having a chief AI officer now. To me, that's a big no. And I've run at large enterprises as large as Walmart and Tesco and the likes of those. If you create another vertical of AI in parallel to the data, already data is, people are saying chief data officer, there's already a chief security officer, there's already a chief technology officer, there's a chief information officer. We don't need another chief AI officer
Hang on,
to mess up
because
the
I
whole
don't
things.
mean it. Yeah, but I don't mean it as a vertical. So whenever I say a chief AI officer, it means a consortium of everybody who has an AI stake, going from board down under to be in one, I don't know, kind of like a startup inside the company to say, how do we now deal with this? And everybody has their stake. So the CISO has their stake, the IT manager has their stake, everybody else, but nobody has a responsibility. And I think if that generic responsibility does not exist, then it's very difficult to pinpoint what the strategy is going to be. And that's what I see with a lot of customers. And that's why I'm suggesting a chief AI officer that basically works with everybody else to figure out what is our strategy on AI and how does it work together. So
Yeah.
that's the positioning I'm putting it in. I'm not putting it in as a
Absolutely.
separate role because I agree with you. You should not create silos. Silos are the death of every company if you do not connect them.
Absolutely. Agreed with them. So, and I think the second point that you are referring to, which I think is absolutely important, that it is not to kind of pitch the OpenAI's chatbot against the Bard or against the Microsoft AI. It is an ecosystem. People have to see, pick and choose and create. So it's like a when you go to a restaurant, you don't you try to mix up a few things. You have some starters, you have some main course, and then something sweet to follow with. You create a package which you consume, and I think that is what people need to see it, that there are too many things outside in AI. Build something which is suitable for you, for the use case which you are trying to solve the problem for. And people are kind of jumping into it without understanding where to apply. And I think to me that is one big fear that I have. And if I may move on to Sid in consideration of time that we have, data IQ. Now, when you speak to your customers and some of your colleagues, what is the feeling that you're getting around this hype? Will this subside? Will this have the metaverse effect or not?
Awesome. So perfect. So I've been with Dataiku for the last 4 years, and when I joined, we had just a couple of customers in the region, and we've onboarded, I would say, 50 of the largest data-driven organizations. And again, all we sell is AI, right? We offer a data science platform. And one thing to the point that we were making earlier, very interesting discussion regarding job creation or role creation, specifically to AI. So what we've seen is that while traditionally AI, I'm not talking about Gen AI, I'm just talking about AI in general, has been very specific to a limited set of people within an organization. It's a group of people who come with that right kind of background, specialize on certain domain areas, and it's only this set of people who are driving the transformation or the change for the organization. What we've seen as a pattern over the years is that it's not just about this whole data scientist community within a particular organization. We've seen a pattern where people are looking at more of an everyday AI, where that can be rolled out across the lines of businesses, across roles, across departments. So how can you make AI as an interface that's, I would say, friendly to the Excel sheet users, for example, the business analyst community. So we've seen a surge, in that pattern. So to the point that we are discussing earlier, I think a pattern that we've seen is that while they could be a head of analytics, for example, for an organization, it's the hub and spoke model where you have champions across the organization, and then AI becomes like you're using Excel sheets on an everyday basis. It just infuses into your everyday operations. And that is something that we've been advocating as well. And we've seen good reception of that over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years. Now, of course, on the generative AI side of the story, what we hear, and again, these are things that I hear every single day. I'm on a call with a particular customer. Uh, with generative AI, the buzz is there. Everybody's interested, and to the point Jessica was making, I think we're fortunate to be in Middle East where we've got the right kind of investment climate. People want to do the biggest things, the fastest things, the crazy things as well, and because of which there's some really great conversations that we get into. Now, how practical these conversations are is a different question. The challenges that we've seen, and we come across this almost on an everyday basis. I would put it in a couple of points. So number one, with generative AI, I think there's so much choice out there right now that every vendor out there has their own API service. Now, how do you decouple the use case that you have, the business problem that you're trying to solve, with the various APIs that are available? How do you make that choice? It is a very difficult choice to make because once you create an application, it is very hardwired in the underlying model or the service, and it makes it very difficult. Once you've designed something and you've productionized it, it's a very expensive proposition to deproductionize that as well. So one thing that we've seen is that there's a lot of confusion, a lot of choice, and there needs to be a framework somewhere that you can do the performance analysis, you can do the security analysis, you can look at cost as a big factor, because at the end of the day, creating and running LLMs is very expensive. And of course, the vendors are charging the API fees as well. And of course, once you roll it out, it's very difficult for the IT ops to, in my opinion, to really factor how much are you going to be spending on a particular LLM service. So I think that cost analysis is also something very important. And last, I would conclude by saying that to the point that Aditya was making earlier, I think privacy, security, compliance are key aspects. I think one thing that is, I believe, one of the biggest fears, apart from the regulation that's coming in, like we have the EU AI Act, for example, some time back, and again we had discussions with the public sector here with some regulators. There are more and more AI regulations coming in. What if things go bad? I think LLMs can touch the corporate IP and PII data as well, and the cost of a PR disaster or the fear of a PR disaster is what sort of is keeping people back from really taking this to the next level. So I'll conclude by summarizing this. With generative AI, I think the choice is a problem, and there has to be a framework to do the right kind of analysis. Second factor that we hear from customers is the cost around it and how do you contain that cost. And the third, of course, is the privacy, compliance, and security. So that's my point of view.
Excellent. No, I think you raised a very valid point, and I think we have been fortunate, as everybody is echoing, that in this part of the world, the adoption of AI is going to be much faster, and there are two reasons for it. One reason is that there's not much of legacy, right? Some of the things were so archaic that it is very easy to throw them out and put in new things, right? Unlike the West, where there is a lot of legacy which needs to be cleaned up, and always cleaning legacy is the most difficult part. Yeah, so either you transition by throwing the old things out and putting the new things, which is very easy, which is what the entire MENA region is trying to do, and do that. But I think the adoption of government in this region has been phenomenally high in some of these things, whereas, as you rightly said, I think Europe is absolutely cautious around this. US is still trying to ride the wave, but I'm pretty sure within the government sector, they're not adopting it as fast and as swiftly as you would see in this region. Is that a threat in the longer run, that everything and anything and everything of data is with the government? Anybody wants to pick that up? Is that something that needs to be put in from a governance and ethical AI, which is the key topic and a subject before government takes all that steps of building anything and everything that touches their citizens through AI? Jessica, you want to?
Well, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? I think should we stop it? It's too late, to be honest. They already know everything because everything you do is digital, right? So I have these discussions a lot when I go into France, when I go into Germany, because my role is EMEA, right? And they go like, yeah, but we got to be sovereign, we got to be this, we got to be this, and I'm like, if you really think that by posting on Facebook or by doing your banking systems on your iPhone that you're fully secure, it's an illusion, right? So there's always this level of acceptance that we always take, and I always take the T's and C's of Apple as a good example. Who reads them? Nobody, right? But we all accept it. And maybe in there, it says that Apple is collecting AI conversations, and maybe it has all of those things, right? So there is one of the security guys I know, which I used to work with for a long time. I used to work for Dimension Data, and that was the largest security provider out there without actually selling security. And the guy who was running security for global, he always said to me, he said, listen, we went from the castle and the moat, right? The protective side of let's protect everything around it and inside we're safe, to a model where we kind of know like, okay, we're going to be penetrated. It's about the recovery. And I think that switch needs to happen in a lot of people's heads. Do we completely confine ourselves? Do we secure ourselves? And is it an issue? It might be an issue, but I think it's too late to completely isolate ourselves. So it's about the recovery part of things. Are we happy for government to be able to delete our data or to be able to do other things? I think that's where the governance comes into. Not the getting of the data, because they probably already have it, but it's the how do you deal with the data, how do you control the data, and how do you allow the data to map into an AI? And I think that governance piece needs to happen massively. And there is two ways, which I see. Europe has the on button on. They block everything and they secure everything, and everything is, very, very high risk. The Middle East has a more of a different way of looking at it. They'll go like, okay, let's figure it out with some fake data and let's do it differently. The reason I moved from Europe to the Middle East is because I think the Middle East is handling it a little bit better than Europe is. Because Europe is shying away from it and is not necessarily addressing it. And is also taking it into the hands of a few people, where the Middle East is taking it into the hands of multiple people. So I think the greater good of the consensus is, in my personal opinion, not ServiceNow, but the personal one, the better one. So I think it comes down to how do we recover if it does happen? Because essentially you can't protect everything that we have, because our IDs are digital, our bank cards are digital. We don't even have physical money anymore. It's all digital, right? So the potential for disaster is big, but I think if we have those rules and regulations around it that protect the citizens, that protect the companies, then it's a little bit better in my head.
Perfect. Aditya, coming to you from an enterprise perspective, obviously, somebody would still have mainframes, somebody would have still AS400, somebody would have on-prem databases, somebody would have systems which we don't know what it is for, but you just restart it once a year just to make sure that it is up and running. So that is the state of enterprise, and there's nothing wrong. I think that is how a lot of enterprise are, for all the good reasons. And in that context, on the other hand, we are now talking about advanced foundational models, GPU-led infrastructure, everything on the cloud. Now, how do you strike a balance from an enterprise perspective? Because you will have pockets of data, you will have pockets of applications all scattered around. And how do you tread this path so that it becomes much more holistic without increasing the enterprise risk and without burning a lot of money from an IT budget?
I mean, it's almost like what Jessica said, right? Like, it's not so much about, the walls. The walls have been down for quite some time since globalization happened. Everyone's everywhere and everyone knows where everyone else is. In fact, technologies was something that was instrumental in saving quite a part of the world during COVID. And I think everyone sort of felt that, thank God the government has my details, because at least they know that I'm well. And, they can find me and they can treat me and they can do everything for me. And be able to sort of utilize it within the social fabric also was something quite useful. But I think from an enterprise, it's more about having the right framework of risk within the organization. It's never going to be that we'd be able to have your weakest link is your weakest link. And I think being able to sort of map, every aspect of your organization effectively, and having sort of, it's still a process that has to be carried out as diligently as we were doing, before, is to have the right framework for risk that associates from every asset that you have within the organization, not just the asset, but the processes and the integrations that are within the organization, within the systems that we have in place. And to be able to continually evaluate as something new comes on board, because we do have a tendency to build a model and then, dust it out just before the auditors come once a year. But I think if you would utilize it in a more sort of intrinsic way within the organization, and I think some industries understand risk better than the others, like aviation, which is most part of my career journey, is absolutely coded in handling risk. I mean, there's no question of starting from a passenger arriving at the airport to reaching its final destination. There's risk all the time, and the impact that may happen because of the lapses within aviation are far greater and very damaging to life and to brand and to organizations. So I think not every organization or not every business, enterprise assesses risk in the same way. And now I'm seeing, while I'm in maritime, that we have the same, if not that intense, but a significantly regulated industry with the maritime organizations, because you have assets which are in a dangerous environment, which need to be protected, and people need to be protected that are working on those assets. So I think that sort of company culture may always not be the best way to evaluate risk, but it's the onus is on us as leaders within technology, to actually make sure that, starting from our own backyard where we've got these old legacy systems lying around, down to how business utilizes data and how they process data, that we evaluate the risk at every step of the way. And then you have to obviously bring in a significant amount of security infrastructure to manage it. But principally, if the framework doesn't exist or the practices don't exist of how to evaluate, how to mitigate, then that sort of always tends to, because even when you buy the most expensive SOC solution or outsource your troubles to somebody, they still say the responsibility is eventually yours. So you're still left to deal with the issue. And I think that's something that has to be also considered, even in the light of the new AI technologies or any other technology that comes in. Whether you are going back to the drawing board, reassessing, re-engaging, and republishing your risk matrix every time something new happens within your organization. And I think that creates a better framework to work with. Maybe it's too old school. Maybe ChatGPT could do that for me too.
No, I think it makes sense. And the fear that I see is, as you would know, that a lot of these earlier, when you were supposed to, let's say, build an application within an enterprise, you would then write the requirement. Somebody would then do a solution architecture. Then there would be a technical architecture of it. You will do an integration diagram of it, then build a solution. So there's a lot of know-how which was there within an enterprise, at least for the core applications. And the fear that I have is when you have moved into this mechanism, in the sense that you just subscribe to, let's say, AI model or a foundational model as a service, you don't know what is happening inside there. Yeah, you have no clue. You just stitch a few things in the front end, and everything is happening in the back end. Yeah, and that is that's a good and a bad thing. So your time to market is high, is very fast, and there's a lot of advantages of it. But in the long run, there will be enterprises which will be held hostage to these platform companies, 100%. And I think I see two service providers who must be happy that enterprises are losing control. And once you lose control, you don't know what you're getting into, right? And 5-7 years back, believe me, I always thought that there will be something from Microsoft Office will be disrupted. And today, if you see, they are increasing prices left, right, and center every year without doubt, and the usage is increasing. So you are in the hands of a technology which is a monopoly, and you don't have a choice of doing anything outside it. I'm just fearing that 5-7 years down the line, when a lot of enterprise processes are built on AI models, uh, how do you get that control? And Aditya, if you may just hold on, because I think Sid is a platform company guy.
Yeah.
He does this. So let me get his perspective of where it is, and then I'll give you the chance, Aditya, after that.
All right, so I'll give you a very short answer to that. So a lot of world is moving towards auto ML. So you automate everything and you have the output to the point that you just made, Piyush. It's easier, it's good, it's faster, and you can get the insights out. But then you lose that control. This often, of course, is referred to as black box AI. Now, in my very humble opinion, and again, as Dataiku, we do have that feature as well of auto ML. But again, Dataiku strategy, I can talk on behalf of my company, has been human-centric AI, which means that auto ML is a feature that's available. And it's good to have that feature, but you cannot have auto ML as the strategy for the organization. I think that human intervention is always there, and we've been advocating white box AI as a concept, where yes, auto ML is a part of the overall feature list that you have, but it is not what we offer. So that's my quick submission there. So
No,
the
I think you
human-centric.
touched upon three very good terms, which I like a lot. You said humanizing AI, there is ethical AI, there is humanizing AI, and the two concepts of black box AI and white box AI, right? You should know what is in the box. I'm pretty sure
Absolutely.
as an enterprise, I would never want to give that control into a black box AI where I have no clue of what is happening in the back end, in terms of the processing, in terms of where the things are, how you are trying to at least not to do the code level intervention, but at least at a conceptual level, I should know what is happening. And Aditya, if you want to kind of bring it light from an enterprise perspective, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of interesting points or concerns that you raised. Firstly, yeah, I know we see the large solution providers, seem to be gobbling up everything, but I don't think any provider wants to gobble up anyone's risk because it's just detrimental to their own business. And I think on the regulation, like what Jessica earlier said, I mean, it's a wait and watch, because from a US perspective, obviously they're looking to see how they can govern or how they can control this sort of wild nature of AI. And Europe is known for bringing in strong regulations. I mean, we've seen through GDPR and many other tools that they will continually bring. So I think it's just a matter of time that regulations will come through. And as Jessica said, myself and a couple of us, and a lot of architects and everybody who wants to do something crazy moves to Middle East, because it gives you the infrastructure, it gives you the sort of the mindsets of where technology is embraced, and then the government, even here in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, is known for sort of maximizing the digitization or the automation of services. They obviously don't have the demographic of a 1.6 billion population to feed, so maybe it gives a better sort of agility for them to not worry so much about it, but to draw from the very evolution to see how it will be self-sustaining for not just the people here, but also for the population that's here from all over the world. But I feel like on the AI side itself, as Sid said, it's like everything else, you have to go through the diligence of what you should work on. And I think Jessica mentioned earlier, it's not about just throwing everything in and then expecting it to create something magical. It's about understanding, specific areas that you are trying to address, and then going through it with the same process you go through every other solution. You have to see whether it's presenting the right output. Is it even working correctly? Is it taking more data than it should? Is it evaluating, have you given it too much control? Is it seeing? And yes, it will have limitations, but then it's almost like you have to train the model. I mean, it's not something that will just like one day you bring it in and next day it's answering everyone's questions, which is never going to happen. I mean, first it's going to expose all the mess that you already have within the organization. And quite like what analytics did initially when it came on board. People are still resistant to dashboards because they don't want a dashboard where the CEO can see the information real time. They still want to have 3-4 people prepare reports and shine them up and present them in a nice, beautiful slide. So I think there's always going to be a catch up between what the organization's cultural gaps are and behaviors are versus this technology coming in and just sort of. But I feel it can be unified. It can definitely democratize parts of your business that may need that sort of insights. And if you do look at it positively, in the sense that if it does give you some value out of certain, tasks that are tremendously, mundane and not very interesting, then you can grow through those.
Okay. So if you were to just kind of do the final comments, Jessica, will the hype plateau, increase or decrease in 2024 of Gen AI?
I think it will increase still. There might be some people that start to realize that it's ridiculously expensive if you do it for the wrong reasons. We have had customers who press the emergency button after 2 days of running Copilot together with ServiceNow, together with Bard as a test, and they hit $34,000 in 2 days. So they figured out that there should be a panic button. So every time I go in with customers, even though it is a trend, even though they go ahead, find your panic button. Find the moment that you say, listen, this is where we stop, because that's important. And I think if you have that, just educate yourself, figure out where it goes into, and then figure out the right use case. Don't use it as a Google search, and get acquainted with how it can help your environment. And I think where I would start personally is in AI ops, the operations. That's the easy win. That's the quickest one. And if something happens on risk, you can actually also use AI to reduce your risk. So those are the 2 elements I would start with. And that's what we're trying to push our customers into as well. Try to figure out the consumerized side of things. So the summarization and the conversations. And then the other side is make your back office lean, mean, and automated, and figure out how you can save money there so you have a budget to play with the front ends. And that's what I think is going to happen.
No, I think you rightly pointed out, build that AI ops organization, which is the core of taking you to the next level, rather than trying to figuring out and then burning a lot of money by paying some of these platforms which are there. Aditya, your views?
I'm gonna just enjoy the hype. I think it's good, and I think Jessica pointed out pretty much what we also looking at is, looking at functions that are not very productive and that are just legacy functions. It's not just the systems; it's even processes and people's roles that are quite. Some of them are quite legacy, and I think there are areas that you can sort of reduce the unnecessary, generation of data, which we can look at. And I mean, we are obviously, doing practice before you preach. So we are looking at IT ops itself first, rather than going and trying to transform other areas of the business. But I do feel that, it's a must-watch technology. I hope it doesn't blow up like metaverse, but I guess time will tell. But yeah, for now, I think it's quite exciting.
Okay, Sid, same question: up, neutral, or down?
I think it's definitely going up, but to the point I was trying to make initially is that I think the single most important thing, in my opinion, if I had to summarize my point of view, is to decouple the application from the service layer. It is not always immediately clear which LLM is going to provide the best output for the application that the team is attempting to build. But the analysis around cost, security, performance, speed is very important in the design phase, so that it gives you the choice to actually change uh, because the world is very fast evolving. So in my opinion, frankly, the hype is there, but to decouple the application from the service layer, because there's so much choice out there, is very, very important. And I see more and more customers opening up that subject as we go along, next year.
Perfect. I think that brings us to the hour here. I would say it has to plateau before it can fly. Obviously, it is not like metaverse for sure. From the day metaverse was announced, I had a strong opinion that it will never fly, and it did not. But I believe that at least from an enterprise adoption perspective, leave the consumer end to it, where everybody starts using chat gpt. That's a different segment. I'm saying from an enterprise segment, implementing AI and AI models and moving to generative AI is a difficult journey. It's not going to happen very soon. Maybe it's a decade long transformation program which needs to happen across enterprises, because we have not solved the core problems of app modernization. We have not solved the core problem of data modernization. We have not solved the problem of API economy modernization, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of these core problems to be solved. Obviously, it cannot be a sequential. So as we kind of solve at an enterprise layer all these problems, we try to inject AI as and when it is appropriate, and transform totally into an AI-led organization in about 5 to 10 years' time. And that would be the view that I would carry from this discussion. So thank you all for joining. It was wonderful to know perspectives from different parts. It was pleasure, and wishing you a great weekend ahead.